The finals officially has an alternate version. And yes, today we will finally address the major elephant in the room. We'll go over all the details there, what that actually entails, and what that means for you as a player on the global version, comparative to this version, which currently does have some exclusive things tied to the other version. We'll cover those murky details, as well as a whole bunch more. What's up, World Utopia here, back in with another video. Today we're checking out all things the Chinals. Okay, so yes, you probably guessed by now, we are going to be discussing and talking about the Chinese version, or the China version of the finals. So if you didn't know by now, I'm going to cover those details, how we got here, and how they do have their own version and client. And if you didn't know, Nexon wholly owns Embark, which makes them a subsidiary of Nexon. However, Embark is a self-publisher, which means they do publish for both the global clients, but that is why we pertain to the Nexon earnings calls, because that's going to be umbrellaed over Embark. So we're going to jump back to a Q2 earnings call in 2024 and a Q1 earnings call in 2025. This one is for a major announcement with a partnership with Tencent, where they do say here, today Nexon and Embark Studios announced agreements with their Chinese publishing partner, Tencent, to develop new experiences in the finals and Arc Raiders, which is specifically customized to appeal to millions of players in China. They did go on here to say that they'll offer more information later. Well, of course, it is way later. We have that information. And jumping to the Q1 2025 earnings call, they said that Tencent opened up pre-registration for the game in China and announced a playtest planned later for the year. Well, that playtest is now here, has been happening for quite a while. There was a lot of NDA stuff, so I couldn't go over it just yet. However, now we have official public documentation, and this comes straight from Tencent themselves. So all the details we have so far on the game we can actually talk about now. But first, what does that all mean? Essentially, they are bringing the finals to China. I might be saying some of the Chinese players have already been playing the finals through Steam, and some do. However, they typically have to go through a bypass method to do so. They usually have their own version of everything, even their own version of TikTok. If you didn't know, it's not called TikTok over there, it's actually its own client, and that one is called Douyin. So they have their own thing for basically everything. So now they're actually going to have a client that is tied specifically to China, and have them play without any workarounds or anything like that. Now you might be asking why, what does this mean? Or what is the point of having this alternate version out there? Well, one, obviously it does get more players into the game, even if it's on its own client. And two, we can actually look at the earnings call for even more details on that, where we can check out the financial highlights and revenue breakdown. I always find these super interesting. They have some really cool details. Again, these stats, though, I will preface, do apply to Nexon as a whole. So it's not just the finals, it's every game under Nexon. Or there are games like Maple Story, Blue Archive, Dungeons & Fighter, even the first Berserker, and probably know me covering a previous game, the first Descendant. So they do have a ton of games that are underneath them. Just want to preface that quickly before I do the revenue breakdown. One of the cool ones here, I mentioned this before, they do break down their PC, console, and mobile revenue share, their operating income, net income, etc. there. Again, just cool to see the different stats. However, this is the one that I wanted to point to. This is the revenue breakdown by region. If we look at Nexon's typical revenue per region, and actually their hometown of Korea is the top region by revenue here, making up 48% for them. The next one might surprise you. It's actually China with 33% of their revenue. And all the way down here is North America. But it's not just North America, it's North America and Europe combined. Only make up 10% of their income per region. So they are appealing to a much larger audience here, and one that has been a much higher revenue source for them. Now, this might not wholly pertain to the finals in general, but you can see why they might want to appeal to that region. You might also be asking, why doesn't Embark and Nexon just publish the game over there itself? If you've ever noticed the game not being published in a specific region, that's due to actually a lot of the local laws there. They also typically need a government approval, an MPPA or ISBN license, where games must be reviewed and issued a publishing number before commercial release. There's a ton of other things that they have to follow, but what that just means is typically a lot of these game publishers, to avoid the headache and everything there, they do end up giving that off to a third party to publish in those local areas. For China, it's typically Tencent or one of the other larger ones. Again, same thing with League of Legends there. And a few other games you probably heard of like Fortnite, Valorant, etc. have their own client over there, and even a different publisher. Now that you understand why it's happening and why they might be incentivized to do so, we have to go over the details on what's actually happening with the China client. The talk of the town right now, you've probably seen it on Reddit or even Discord, is, well, China does have their own version of cosmetics. And these range from full outfits to even different types of skins, ones that we've really never even seen before. This first one was posted publicly and officially by the Finals Bilibili account. Again, if you don't know what Bilibili is, it's their version of YouTube, or China's version of YouTube. Same thing there as I mentioned before, TikTok and Douyin. They have their separate version of it. But this outfit here has been all the rave and talked about, where they are leaning into some mascot territory here. We've seen this before with the finals, and even talked about with previous cosmetics in the finals with the China version. There's been a lot of notion that it did lack quality at first for some of the cosmetics that were shown off. However, I actually think these are very, very high quality and very nice looking. So I think they are stepping it up a bit, and that might have just been because of the pre-release beta, etc. Again, a lot of that footage I couldn't cover because it was under NDA and I didn't want to do so. But now that things have been posted officially and publicly, I do feel like I can cover them. They've also had a ton of other skins here for weapons. Some are just recolors or even re-showing off skins that we've already had. But honestly, some of these are pretty insane looking, or even remixes from the old battle passes, which actually do look pretty cool here. I do have to give them some props on these skins, they do look pretty cool. And honestly, from the last few ones that we've seen, they have stepped it up in quality, as I've mentioned. Some of the first cosmetics that got leaked out didn't look up to par to Embark standards. Although, of course, this is a separate entity, so it's not under Embark, it's under Tencent, and what their developers are doing with it. But I honestly do think they have stepped up the quality here. These do look really, really nice. There is one here that players have been pointing out. Some people do and don't like this, but where they completely changed the defib skin to an EpiPen. I actually kind of like this one. I think it's pretty cool. Some players have mentioned, though, that it changes the cosmetic way too much. Still, I don't know. I kind of like the variants. I am curious on your guys' thoughts, though, if you do care about cosmetics completely changing like that. I will mention this, though. You're probably asking, okay, am I going to see these cosmetics? Do I get the cosmetics? Is it just exclusive to this client? Well, I do have some details here for you to reference previous games. I will preface, though, there has been no official wording. We don't know for sure on any of these things. But given previous games and previous things that Tencent has done, we can go off context there. So first off, if we do look, this is actually extremely common when Tencent does publish a game in the region. They do have exclusive skins tied to their specific games. So one right here, Valorant Mobile did get this weapon skin that is not on global, where they did end up launching with those exclusive skins. That also didn't just apply to Valorant, but also applied to League of Legends Wild Rift, which again is China's version of League of Legends. As this article does mention here, there are exclusive chromas coming to the Chinese server, where yes, they did get these different cosmetics here, like the Crystal Rose Elise, or even the Porcelain Misfortune. That actually applied to a ton of characters in League. I'll link to the article down below, so if you want to check them all out, you can. But they got a lot of exclusive skins over there. And yes, to confirm, for both of those games, they did not bring those to global release. So more than likely, these will be regional exclusive cosmetics. As there's a ton of other examples there, PUBG Mobile, Fortnite China, Call of Duty Mobile, Honor of Kings, Arena of Valor, all of them have had China exclusive collaborations, and those have been exclusive cosmetics for those. We can also try to combine some of the original wording from the original earnings call that I went over. If I read this one back to you, in the Q2 2024 Nexon earnings call, they say here, today, Nexon and Embark Studios announced agreements with our Chinese publishing partner. Tencent is to develop new experiences in the finals and Arc Raiders specifically customized to appeal to millions of players in China. So specifically customized to appeal, that to me reads very exclusive. That's also, in my opinion, going to pertain to this next thing here. Now, some, most, or even all of you might not have seen this already, but the finals does have a Chinese or China version of their website. This first one I can't show footage of right now as it hasn't been posted officially, but it is on their website. But they do actually have some new modes here. This first one they are calling Nuclear War. Now, this might be different wording here, but I'm just using regular Google Translate to translate this. Normally, I actually use a different method to translate that's much more accurate. But given that I just want to use the official visuals here, I've just kept it to the regular Google Translate. Again, it's called Nuclear War, and you guessed it, it is the original canister nukes they are bringing back. However, this is specific to a mode, where you can and will pick up canisters that have the nuke properties and throw them at other players and then explode them. So they have kind of tied in doing their own modes here. They also do have one other mode. Now again, with translations, this is being called Weapon Master, but it is actually Gun Game. Ever played Gun Game in Call of Duty? Essentially, you earn a new weapon every time you get an elimination, and whoever reaches, I think it's level 20 or 25 sometimes, basically getting through 20 or 25 different weapons, because you get given a new one with each elimination, and it's the same for everybody in the match. So essentially, if I have a 9-3 art level 1, you'll have a 9-3 art level 1, and then at level 2, if we get a Lewis gun, Once you hit level 2, you'll also get a Lewis gun. But they also do have gun game that's been added to their version. Now, I really wish that they had these on the global version of the finals. I honestly hope they're allowed to add those now that they've been over there on the Chinese client. I assume they'll be able to if they ever could. And I really do think having these extra modes actually does play a part there. My only issue is the wording that I've seen on the Q2 earnings call, which, one more time for the people in the back, it does say here Tencent to develop new experiences in the finals. And again, specifically customized. That makes me think that they're never going to come to global, or at least obviously they would have the new experiences first. Honestly, I really hope the finals does lean into this more. I love the LTMs and I love what they're doing there, but I also think they just need fun and casual modes to help alongside the game. That's my honest thoughts overall. I think that's what keeps people on games like Fortnite, etc. People are constantly playing those because they have so many different modes and take up so much of their time. At least that's my thoughts. I'm curious on your guys' thoughts there. Again, we'll have to wait and see. Maybe the mode doesn't do very well anyways. But yeah, for right now, it does look like it is locked down to the China client. On an ending note, for right now, it doesn't look like we have any launch information. In their Q&A section, it just says, for testing and launch information, click follow us. So nothing there as of yet. And also their current testing does end on October 12th. So any new intel after that period is just going to be kind of speculation. Overall though, it should about cover for today's video. If you enjoyed it, like, and subscribe, and until the next one. Deuce.